Hey, what's up, everyone? Sorry I've been gone for so long. You'll notice that I did do a talk in Florida about trans issues. I also have been really busy at work, so keeping up with doing videos has been kind of a chore. However, this week I have decided that we need to discuss and learn about how to properly identify good sources, reliable sources. So that's what we're going to do this week on Think Skeptically. Determining a source's reliability is extremely important given how much information is on the internet nowadays. I would go so far as to say that the amount of misinformation is probably about as much as the amount of good, genuine information. So let's go over a quick overview of the kind of things you should look for when evaluating a source for reliability. Try to determine if the context of the source is fact, opinion, or propaganda. How objective is the information? What biases or assumptions underlie what you're reading? You should always check for that because bias can heavily influence the way the information is delivered. Things can be left out, etc. You should check for a list of references and other citations. This helps you check for accuracy. If a source doesn't have any sources, then it's pretty unlikely to be a reliable source. A good quote I heard recently was, "If there are no sources, it's just a blog post." Is there enough evidence offered? Is there a mountain of evidence? Is there a molehill? Is there an anthill? Like, how much evidence is there? You should check for that because you want to make sure that the coverage of your topic is comprehensive, or at least insofar as the source is concerned. Kind of going along with the first item mentioned, you want to check to see if there's broad generalizations that overstate or even oversimplify the matter. You don't want to make things too black and white if there's a lot of gray area. Are there any vague, sweeping generalizations that aren't backed up by evidence? Some generalizations are, most aren't. You should check for that when considering if a source is reliable. How timely is the source? By that I mean, is the source 20 years old? Is it 5 years old? How relevant is that data? Is there new data that's come in that has overridden, say, some of that older data? You need to check that. There are some things that are relevant still from, 50, 100 years ago. And then there's things that change constantly. So you need to be kind of aware of that. And we kind of mentioned this already, but I want to make a strong point of it is how credible is the author? Why should you believe them? What expertise do they bring to the table? What credibility do they bring to the table? Are they a professor or are they just like some 16-year-old kid at a computer just playing like World of Warcraft, spouting off their opinion? That was a lot of info to go over. So I'm going to break it down into a checklist that you can use to ensure, at least in part, that your sources are credible. This is the CARS checklist, C-A-R-S. It stands for credibility, accuracy, reasonableness, and support. So what do we mean by credibility? Credibility has to go with trustworthiness, the author's credentials, evidence of quality control, known or respected authorities, organizational support. The goal here is to find an authoritative source, not just authority as in, the government, but authority as in expertise, knowledge of the topic. A lot of these sources will supply generally good evidence that has allowed you to trust it. Things like Snopes, Nature, and the Associated Press. Accuracy has to do with being up to date, being factual, being detailed and exact, being comprehensive. The goal of accuracy is to be correct. I mean, I know that sounds weird, but a lot of people don't seem to get that. And a source that gives the whole truth, not just part of the truth. A good example of that, for the most part, is NPR. Reasonableness is our next one on the checklist, and it has to do with being fair and balanced, objective, reasoned, no conflict of interest, as much as possible. Absence of fallacies or slanted tone. The goal of reasonableness, of course, is to engage the subject thoughtfully and reasonably concerning what is true and what is false. An example of things that aren't reasonable would be anything, say on Fox News, for instance. Support might be one of the most important on this list because it has to do with listing your sources. Do they list contact information? What's the available corroboration? Are their claims supported? Is their documentation supplied? The goal of having good support is that you provide evidence for your claims, that you can triangulate where the source is coming from and where they're getting their information. Really good sources that give support, or examples of the ones that give support, are things like science journals. All sorts of science journals, because they're peer-reviewed, they have to go through a strict process of evaluation by their peers. Now, once you have the information, how do you deal with it? There's this thing called cognitive dissonance, where you can hear information that disagrees with what you already think you know, etc., and you're sometimes likely to reject it, which is a bad idea. So I'm going to give you another little checklist for, quote unquote, living with that information. And this is the CAFE advice. CAFE. Challenge, adapt, file, and evaluate. You need to challenge the information that's there, and you need to demand accountability. You need to stand up to the information and ask questions. Who says so? Why do they say so? Etc. Next, you have to adapt. You have to adapt your skepticism and requirements for quality to fit the importance of the information and what's being claimed. If my friend says, "Oh, I ran a marathon last week," low priority checking of information. If someone says, "I walked through a wall and can heal the sick by touching their heads," slightly higher bar of evidence that they have to meet. Hopefully that makes sense. You need to require more credible evidence for stronger claims. You are right to be a little skeptical of dramatic information or information that conflicts with commonly accepted ideas. That doesn't mean that the claim is necessarily itself wrong, but your skepticism is better to be higher in those situations. Next, we have to file the information. File the new information away in your mind without believing it or disbelieving it. You should avoid premature closure on the subject, especially if it's a subject that's hotly debated. Don't jump to conclusions or come to a decision too quickly. It's fine to simply remember that sometimes claims, say X, Y, and Z, are true, but you don't need to worry about believing or disbelieving the claim right away. You should withhold judgment. Sometimes it's referred to as being agnostic, though that's not entirely the right use of that word. Wait until you have enough information. Wait till new information comes in. Sometimes you have to, and that will give you time to think about it. Lastly, you need to evaluate and reevaluate regularly. New information or change in circumstances will affect the accuracy and hence the evaluation of previous information. You should recognize the dynamic and fluid nature of information, especially in science. Things change all the time. We're always learning new things, and you have to incorporate those new ideas and that new knowledge into what you know now, and maybe possibly update theories and ideas that you had that could be proven wrong or at least partially inaccurate because of this new information. The saying, change is the only constant, applies to much information, and especially in technology, science, medicine, and business. Why is it so important to do this for your sources? Why is it so important to check on them? Because it saves you time. We live in a society of ubiquitous information coming at us from everywhere, and it can be kind of daunting to sift through that. But thinking about the types of information you're looking for will help you narrow everything down. If you're always trying to find reliable sources and you know how to find them, you can very easily weed out things that don't look reputable. Remember, in order to locate fair, balanced, and objective material, you have to be fair, balanced, and objective. A major error that too many people make is that they only look for sources whose findings and ideas or arguments already agree with them, or what they already believe. It's fine to have a sense of where you think you're going, but you should always be open to opposing ideas and not discount them just because they disagree with you. The best skeptics that I've met, the best researchers that there are in the world, usually don't start out to prove anything. They instead start out trying to disprove something, or simply just to find out about it. Discern both sides, and then come to a conclusion after enough or all the information has been presented. Don't get trapped in the circular thinking that just because something is disagreeing with you or your beliefs, it is unreliable. Thanks everyone for watching this video. It was really fun to make, and I'm so sorry I was gone for so long. One thing I wanted to mention, instead of doing a sponsorship, is to let you know about Openly Secular's Remove Your Mask campaign, which is going on now until November 15th, and you could win up to 2 $1,000 prizes. There are prizes for second and third place as well, but if you want to learn more, you can go to openlysecular.org/removeyourmask. You can follow me on social media, on Facebook, on my new Facebook page at facebook.com/thinkskeptically. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at TheMathEist. I'll have those links in the description below, and you'll see them after this. Thanks so much, and have a good day! Don't forget to subscribe. Bye! Next, you need to file. File the information away in your fucking... Damn it, I didn't... Sometimes I forget to turn off the noise on my computer.
Sometimes you forget to turn off your damn mouth.